This is Laurence Goff at Newark Cemetery in Nottinghamshire, which was built in 1856. I'm coming up to the Commonwealth and Polish war graves, which are looking lovely with the roses all coming out, and I decided to come over and take a few pictures and a few videos of many of the people that are buried here. Newark Cemetery is renowned all over the world. We have Canadians, we've got 17 Canadian from the Second World War that are buried here. We have 3 from New Zealand, and we have some 6 from the Royal Air Force Australia, and these ones over here are all Canadian. And we've got an Australian flag here, H.H. Lloyd, Canadian Air Force, New Zealand, Royal Air Force pilot, A.R. Burgess. There's another Australian, and there's a Canadian one here. An Australian, and the rest of them, the majority of them over here, some over 400 Poles are remembered that are buried here. General Sikorsky came to Newark in 1941 to unveil this cross to the many Poles that died during the Battle of Britain, and we should be grateful that they took their time to come over to help us in our hour of need. And so I'm doing another tribute in the cemetery to remember our Polish Air Force that came over and took the biggest sacrifice and died and are buried here among our British comrades and Commonwealth. General Sikorsky was buried here. He died in the 4th of July 1943, and he was buried here for 50 years until his body was exhumed on the 13th of September 1993, and his remains were taken to the parish church in Newark overnight, and on the 14th of September 1993 a service took part to have a farewell service and mass to remember his contribution, and he went back to Poland and he is buried in the cathedral in Warsaw. We have 3 presidents that are also buried here in Newark Cemetery. This was the last one in 1947. We had one in 1947. Another one here who died in 1972. And the final one who died in 1982. As Poland was a communist regime, they decided to remain in Newark and are still among us to this day. We should also remember all the many young people that died. We've got the youngest person that is buried in our war memorial cemetery. His anniversary is coming around next year. Keith Cousin Wood. I'm just going to see if I can locate his grave now. Here's Keith. He died on the 29th of July 1942, age 16, on his first flight in an airplane from Boulderton Air Base. and he died of another cadet from another area. These came over just to try and learn about the cadets in Newark, and somehow he was killed, and his anniversary happens to be next year. There's another. We've got all the different. We've got quite a few crew members that have died here. Some of the bodies have actually been exhumed, so the spaces are empty. Here's another Australian one. And here's a crew that died on the 26th of May 1944. There's 7 of them here. Sergeant, another sergeant, all sergeants these were, from the Royal Air Force. We had and 3 Canadians died on that tragic flight. The youngest was 20. We actually wanted to hear is 2 who were actually 19. We also remember this year is the 70th anniversary of Ramsden and Mars. Ramsden Mars had 2 flights go over its factory on the 7th of March 1941. Arthur Worrell was one of the casualties, age 31. Winifred Andrew, age 39. Thomas McCallum Hardy, 26. Gladys Cummings, 21. Edwin Martin, 46. And it says Dad on there. George Harold Henry Adams also died. We also have the Air Bridge Memorial in 1944, when 200 people were perished trying to give supplies to Poland during the Warsaw Uprising. So this memorial was put in place. Warsaw Air Bridge Memorial, in tribute to the 250 airmen of Britain and the Commonwealth and Poland who sacrificed their young lives in desperate attempts to fly from distant RAF bases in Italy with essential supplies for the front line city of Warsaw during the 1944 uprising. We have John Henry Green, who was on the top of the building of Ramsden and Mars. He was a home guard on watch patrol on that Friday on the 7th of March 1941, and the planes came over the factory and shot at him, and he died, and his memorial is here, and he's also buried later on with his wife is also. So here's John Henry Green, a home guard, who was buried here. We've got 30 from the Ramsden and Mars that are actually buried out of the 41. They're scattered all over the cemetery. We have a Sherwood Forester who is also buried among us from the factory bombing, and he's over here. Ernest Beale, Sherwood Forester, age 27. We also got over here William Worrell. We also got William here, Warner, who's also buried here from the Ramsden Mars bombing, and the family came to visit his grave this year and put some more stones on the grave. Let us remember the sacrifice of the people from the First World War that are here among us. 1917, J.R. Riley, F. Butler Parr, engineer, 1916. We've got all these white stones all scattered around the cemetery. There's some 49 from the First World War that are scattered in our cemetery, which was built in 1856, and it's maintained by the Newark Town Council. Friends of Newark Cemetery are happy to show people around our cemetery. We have a little chapel which is now a resource centre. It's open on the weekends from 2 to 4 or by appointment. You can ring me at 01636 681878 or just write to Friends of Newark Cemetery at yahoo.co.uk or go on my website newarkcemeteryuk.wordpress.com. And we have two from the same family from the First World War who are actually buried here. I'm not sure if they're twins but they just died a year apart, as you can see. They both died in February, one on the 1916, one 21st of February 1917. So I just want to make sure people remember these people.